You're listening to The Bounding Box, where we talk about web development, geo development, and everything in between. All right, so welcome to The Bounding Box. Today, I am joined by an amazing product engineer at Esri, Androl. Androl, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, what's your problem.
Hey Renee, how are you? Thanks for having me on your podcast. So my name's Androl Batsuk, and I'm a product engineer on ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript team. So I've been with the I
You got
have
you
to use
got you
the
got to look that up, right. I mean, by the time this podcast goes out, I think the name would be announced. So, like, yeah, we had people that aren't aware, we did a kind of a name change from ArcGIS API for JavaScript to ArcGIS Maps SDK for JavaScript. Did I get
for
that right?
JavaScript.
So we're all still getting used to it. So don't mind us.
So I've been with the team for last 6 years, but been working for Esri for the last 20 years. In fact, actually, November 11th marks my 20 year at Esri. So
Oh wow! Congratulations.
okay, thank you, thank you. Yeah, so but JavaScript team is absolutely the best team I worked with. I work with an amazing group of people, and the job I do is really interesting. But I started out as an instructor, taught all the programming classes. I started teaching the VBA script for Arc objects. Was teaching people how
Wow.
to create macros in ArcGIS Desktop 8.1, I believe the version then. So I was an instructor for 3 years. Then I moved to developer support group, supported all the developer products. Been there also about 4 or 5 years. Then I moved over to a technical marketing, again, supported basically all the developer-based products for marketing purposes. Then moved over to JavaScript team and been with the team. So I work on uh, different types of layers, mostly, feature layer, GeoJSON layer, CSV, web tile, all the imagery layers, vector tile layer, group layer, so on and so forth. And then also work with the view API, map view API. What else do I do? Yeah, so,
Yeah,
the view, yeah.
Undro does quite a lot. So if ever I have a question about like anything layer related, even graphics related, but sometimes Undro tells me that's not what she's working on. But anything like that, I usually go to Undro first, and if she doesn't know, she definitely knows who I can ask all the time. And I know it annoys the hell out of her. It's okay because I'm gonna keep doing it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that. Uh, Renee asked me earlier explain what product engineers do on a team. So my day-to-day, so product engineers, I think their main duty is basically work with the developers to, on specific projects. The projects, for example, can be something like, implementing time animations in API. So you would work with your developers and the other interested parties, what it is, to support time animations in the API. So working, work through the user requirements and what it needs to be done. So going through the specs, the API implementation with the developers and decide on a public API. So the developer goes and implements implements the API based on the designs we have, and then the product engineers will go in and start testing out the implementation, and then give the feedback. If you find bugs, you give the feedback to the developer, or if something is not making sense in terms of the end user point of view, then relay that information to the developer, and then uh, write the SDK documents and samples and basically explain the API to the users. So that's mostly what I do. I do a lot of testing and writing samples and API documents, but we have other, PEs also will go out of their ways to write blogs and go to different conferences and, present.
So you've actually been doing some screencasts recently, right, Andrew? What couple of screencasts have you done so far?
Oh, I think maybe 3 or 4, but just seems like not many people. find those and watch them. But what is it? Screencast easier than writing. So I do short, like a maybe 10, 15-minute videos on GeoJSON layer, for example, or the latest one, or the time implementation. And I've done also one, I think, on projections. The latest one I've done is the support for adding cloud optimized GeoTIFF file to imagery tile layer. The version that we introduced at uh, sorry, the feature that we introduced at version 425.
And that you actually did make a post about that on the Esri community site, right? So if people
Yes.
go there, they can find it. And I think that's a really good resource to people that don't know. If you go to the Esri community, there's like you can just search in there. There's actually videos posted up that might be published to YouTube, but they're also reposted into the Esri community. So Andrew's got some really cool stuff out there. The imagery one is really neat because that whole cog geotiff stuff is a feature that people were asking for a while, right? Like that was like
Yes.
people were happy when we had imagery layers, but they want their own tips that they could publish and everything like that. So that's really neat that that's out there.
Yep. So I think that, yeah, this will be a very exciting enhancement to the imagery tile layer, because like you said, this was a quite frequently requested enhancement. So it's like, the organizations where maybe they had a very sophisticated raster workflow, creating, temporary imageries as part of their raster workflow, and they wanted to add and visualize those temporary imageries in an imagery layer or imagery tile layer. And they've always asked, like, can we just, display those images without having to publish them as image services? So now they can, but they have to convert their images to a cloud optimized GeoTIFF file, and then they can just use imagery tile layer to add those cloud optimized GeoTIFF files. But this feature is released in beta because we have obviously quite a number of limitations in terms of what types or settings we support on those cog files. But as we continue to add more support for those, I think we'll get it out of beta, and it should be a exciting future. But with that said, also I want to point out, because cloud optimized GeoTIFF files don't, for example, support multi-dimensional data set, so you wouldn't be able to take advantage of like a multi-dimensional raster implementations in the imagery tile layer, for example.
So none of those like functions and stuff like that would work on those.
Yeah.
That's cool. And I think people don't, or well, I guess people that are probably using image server would know, but people that are just kind of consuming random image services don't know that there's a bunch of raster functionality they can actually run via the image server to get new output, right? I mean, whether it's like a DEM or like I guess maybe like I'm trying to think like infrared imagery and stuff like that. There's all these different functions you can run it to kind of do more analysis, and the server does all the work and just feeds you back the new images and stuff, right?
Yeah, so hoping maybe for 26, but don't quote on me, but down the road in the near future, imagery tile layer will also start supporting like a client-side raster functions, like where you can create a view shed analysis, or maybe you can do a clip, or the uh, like raster functions just like that. Just yeah, so it's like a clipping and what is it? Creating a view shed analysis. So those functions will be available. There will be quite a few number of raster functions will be available on the imagery tile layer to work on the client side.
I think that's
So
really neat. We always and it's kind of funny how that always comes into play when we talk about bringing up some of that functionality client side, right? I mean, we do it with all the layers support client side querying and statistics and stuff, and now we're looking at adding client side functionality to these imagery tiles. I mean, it's just a lot of cool client side stuff people can do with the API that doesn't necessarily rely on server to do all these functions and everything, which is really neat.
exactly, yes, yeah. So yep, it's true. Yeah. So the roster team's been, adding a lot of exciting enhancements to imagery and imagery tile layers. And that, because maybe we don't blog about it so much or don't tweet like you all the time, that the group may be just not as exciting uh, uh, okay, that's not a right word. So the group, so we just don't, I think, it's basically what I'm trying to say is, Renee, like, we just don't, write enough blogs or don't tweet about all those exciting enhancements. But
So,
hopefully, users find those exciting. So sorry, the transposed multidimensional raster dataset, right?
uh-huh.
I think it's an also really exciting enhancement to imagery tile layer, especially for the community who uses multidimensional data sets where they have to, drill down location like a analysis on the imagery tile layer. Because before the transposed, multidimensional raster data set came along, if you, run identify method on your multidimensional raster data set, you got pixel value for only one dimensional slice at a time, right? So now with the transpose data, you can say, hey, give me basically pixel value at this location from all the multidimensional slices or for this set of slices.
Oh, okay. Does that
So yeah,
work with the hit test too? Is hit test just going to give you the pixel value for where you click on the map? Or,
so there's an identify method on the imagery tile layer which takes advantage of the hit test.
okay,
But
okay.
now, if you uh, turn your multidimensional raster data set, tiled image service to a transposed multidimensional tiled image service, then with a one identify method, you can get all the pixel values that you need from your multidimensional raster data set. So we have an SDK sample for this too, where we are creating the windrows, the
Ah,
raster, the chart from a tiled image service, where we're showing the average wind directions, speed, and directions for every day of 2011. So with the one identify method, we're basically getting the wind directions and wind speed information for every day of 2011. So that's
that's
an
nuts.
exciting, yeah, yeah,
That's insane.
and
I mean, that's a lot of data in one click, right? That is very cool.
yes. If it wasn't transposed, basically you would be calling identify method 365 times to create
Yeah,
that chart, and which basically was literally impossible to do with imagery tile layer.
that
But
is
now you
cool.
can.
I never play with it too much. I gotta start playing with that layer
Yeah.
now. That sounds fun. All right, Adriel. So I do want to ask you before I let you go, I want to respect your time here, but do you have any tips and tricks for listeners? It doesn't have to be geo or developer related at all. Anything at all that you want to throw out
No.
there.
Like, what kind of advice are you looking for?
Anything
I'm
at
not sure.
all. I've got people
Huh.
promote something or whatnot.
So, I would, I guess my suggestion or advice, I guess, would be, use the Israel community uh, page. Reach out to us. You can tag me or tag Renee also. Like, reach out if you ever get stuck, if you have questions. Seriously, check out the Israel community page and uh, ask your question on us. The team routinely scans the questions and we routinely answer questions. So if you ever get stuck, if you ever need questions or feedback even, right? Or even you have ideas for an enhancement or feature, then just check out, leave your comments and feedback and enhancement requests on those pages.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also want to point out to you if you're going to this community and you got a question, if you could please provide a sample of some sort that we could test, that would be very helpful. Or else
Yes.
if you don't, we're just kind of shooting in the dark and trying to take a guess. So help us help you, please. Awesome, Underworld. Thank you very much, Underworld. I appreciate it, and I'll be talking to you later. Thank you for listening to the Bounding Box today. Please subscribe for more content.